Hello, everyone. Welcome to Practice with Prather yet again. I'll let some of you guys get in here, but today we are throwing the new Tour Dynamics, the Exponent, and the new Clone. Those are the only three balls I brought in. I didn't really prepare much, mainly because I'm trying to decide on if any of these are going to go with me to Sweden tomorrow. Packy's not here. Well, he is here, but he's on a golf course because he forgot he's playing golf today. So it's basically just me and all of you guys hanging out. He's still going to put up your questions and all that good stuff. But ultimately, it's just going to be me bowling. And I'm here at the newly renamed Twisted Pen, which I'm sure that you guys will see. But we're bowling on, those are now string pins. So give you my thoughts on those and all that other stuff. I know that some of you might be so against string pins and, you know, such a traditionalist of bowling that you might just despise it. But please keep that to yourself. I'm not here to debate whether string pin is good or bad or any of that. I'm here to talk about bowling balls. So let me get warmed up. I've only thrown 4 shots, and we'll get to your questions in a minute. Now that you guys could even see that. You can throw messengers on the string pins. I just don't know if they're going to hit anything. Hi, Kristen. Thank you so much. Everything's been going well. Hope you're doing all right. Hopefully you guys can see the ball motion all right, but we're just bowling on a on Twisted Pins house shot. But they've been doing a bunch of renovations here. And our place looks really awesome. Adam, I did kind of take the summer off. I'm really into playing golf now, and been playing a bunch of golf and fishing here and there. But I just got back from Team USA camp. Also, if you see legs right there, that is owner John. He's doing a bunch of electrical work, so don't mind him. But yeah, I did kind of take the summer off and reevaluated what I needed to work on and trying to figure out what to do as far as next year goes and my plans, and coming up with some other things outside of bowling. Obviously, Jake Peters and I own Zello Gear, so I've been focusing a bunch of my time and effort on building that brand and building that business. So if you guys need any jerseys, check out zellogear.com. Shameless plug. You're welcome. We just did a bunch of reorganizing for our group pricing and like pro shops and stuff like that. So if you own a pro shop, you want to sell jerseys out of your shop, check us out. I'm going to trip a 4-pin on these. I will. It's going to happen. And if there's anything that you guys specifically want to see as far as these balls go, let me know. I'm just kind of shuffling through them and throwing them. I have thrown them already before. I took them all to Team USA camp and threw them there. So I kind of already have an idea as to what they do. But if you want my opinion on like how they compare to other bowling balls and all that other stuff, just shoot it down below. Packy, if you can hear me, let us know how you're doing. What hole are you on? How's Drew's playing? How's Ryan playing? You know, we set this up. Forgot you were playing golf. Hopefully, you're at least playing well. You still wrap 10 on string pins? If you hear any loud banging or anything like that, they're still doing a bunch of work and construction here. That's Tour Dynamics, by the way, which is why it's hooking a little less. It doesn't really flare all that much. I don't know if I can get it to where you guys can see it or not, but it only flares about yay much. But it's really, really smooth. Very slow reaction of friction. I think the cover core combo on this matches up really well. This is the one that I was kind of like, I don't know, because I don't really throw balls that don't flare much. I know everyone is, you know, thinking that it's probably going to be like the urethane replacement type of deal, but I still think it's too quick for the urethane because for it to be a urethane replacement anyway, like the only thing as slow as urethane is urethane. So it's going to still force you a bit further left than what a urethane ball would, but I think that you could lay this out to where it would be very close, like as close as you could get. Like Vi and Darren both hit theirs with like 180 or 360 grit, and it wasn't unusable. Like they could still, they struck with it on everything that we bowled on that week. As far as what balls we're throwing, it's the new Tour Dynamics, the new Clone, and the Exponent, which I think most everyone has already seen the Exponent go down the line. No, I have not seen how the Tour Dynamics handles carry down. I think it's, if I had to imagine, it doesn't flare enough for that. You'd have to be like really on top of, like if somebody's playing 7-5 with urethane, you would have to be like either right on top of it or just right of it. Only because it doesn't really flare that much. And I think that you'd have to use more surface than whatever is on that urethane ball, which then is going to force you left. I don't know that I think it's more of a, hey, I can't throw urethane. This is my next best option. But I also think that the Tour Dynamics is going to be good on multiple different patterns as long as there's enough friction on the actual lane surface. Like I think it's going to be really good on older lane surfaces, which, you know, how many bowling centers have new lane surfaces nowadays? And I think it's going to be really good for the straighter angles. I don't think you're really going to be hooking it just because it doesn't flare very much. Anything close to a dark code. I mean, an eternity is probably the closest thing. I'd be interested to see how this new virtual energy rolls. Numbers wise, that's probably the closest is the virtual energy. And it's the same color. that's probably the closest. But I have a couple dark codes in my basement that I can't throw anymore. So, you know, somebody wants them, we can trade. What else? The clone isn't really a good ball for replacing a dark code, just because the dark code's so much cleaner, because it's a pearl cover stock. Clone is solid, but it's polished. So yeah, I would say probably Eternity is the closest, but I think the Eternity is still a little bit more quick off the friction, a little bit more down lane than the dark code is. If you can find like a Rubicon, the purple one, is that a UC2? Yeah, that would probably be the closest, but I don't know if you could find one of those. I didn't really have a chance to read all that one. Sorry. I know you didn't like IQ Tour very much. It's not that I didn't like the IQ Tour. I just think that it's not as good today as it was when it came out, because we're using so much more volume on the lanes. So the lack of flare makes it a very like niche ball, to where it's for very specific conditions. Like here, I would throw one in league every single week, because it doesn't flare a whole lot. They hook a lot here. There's a lot of friction on this on these lane beds, and for balls that don't flare a whole lot, that's what you need. You need balls that don't flare. You need a lot of friction to get them to get it fully into rolling. Otherwise, they're just going to skid all the way down the lane. I do think the asymmetry of this Tour Dynamics helps it quite a lot. I think if it was a symmetrical ball that flared this little, it probably would not be quite as good as it is. Some good weak balls. I really like the hustles. I know that they're kind of like a weaker version of this Tour Dynamics, and they're symmetrical, and they come in a bunch of different colors that, according to Bricote, make them roll differently. That's a joke. But if you can find like a hustle PBR and a hustle camo, and then like a weak hustle, those are like three very unique shapes, because they don't have like a super high RG. That's kind of like right in the middle of like 252 or 253, and then they have kind of like a middle of the road amount of differential. I think at like 037 or something like that, where it's not like a bunch of flare, but it'll allow you to play multiple different parts of the lane with different cover stocks and different overall shapes, but with the same core. So the other option would be getting a Tour Dynamics and either hitting it with a little bit of surface to make it a little stronger, or letting it lane shine like I have to make it a little bit weaker. Also, if you keep hearing the ball return turn on and off, it's because it's on like a 1 minute timer. And me talking to you guys, obviously, will have it turn off. Get there. Almost. One day. Oh, we tripping 4 pins. There's the answer to your question. You can still get messengers. You can still trip 4s on string pins. How do I get over the fear of guttering on the short patterns? You throw it in the gutter. I mean, can't be bowling scared, really. It's your job is to throw it to 1, 2, 3, 4, like you were just saying. So either you want to win or you don't. And if it goes in, it goes in. I mean, it's kind of that risk reward type of deal. Ultimately, you know, how bad do you want to win? Tommy Jones won a national tour title throwing in the gutter twice on a short pattern in the title match, I believe. So he definitely ain't scared. Same shoes as me. Still sticking bad on the approach. Tried the powder and didn't work. I think it depends on what soles you're using. Because if you're using like a 2, 4, or a 6, those, especially a 6, the 6 is like the most stop out of like the package. It doesn't matter. You could be bowling on the slickest approaches. You could be bowling on ice, and you still would stick on with a brand new number 6. That is like when I'm fouling a lot. That is what I use. This is a very broken in number 6, but a brand new one. Let me get it real quick. But a brand new number 6 is the most stop. I mean, as much as you could possibly get. This thing does not go anywhere. You definitely have to break these in. So I would look at like what number you're using. I would suggest, if you're still sticking, I would suggest like a number 8 or a 10, depending on how much slide you're trying to get. And then I would look at the heel. Most people slide on their toes for the most part. I'm very much a on my toes type of bowler. The heel, I would suggest, like I use the orange one, the flat orange one. Do I have any that slide less? I don't know. I have so much trouble fouling, so I don't really go through many that don't slide. This would be the only other one that I would suggest. I think this one comes on the shoe. This is one that doesn't have much grip at all, but it'll still help you stay behind the line in some cases. They also make a, I think it's this one. They also make a heel like this, where it's, instead of the front being here, you can put like a piece of fabric on it so you slide less. There's like a little bit of Velcro right here in the front. I used to have one, but I don't really need it because I slide so much with it. So that would be a good one to look at as well. All right, let's throw a shot with the clone. Also, we're capping this at an hour because Packy's on the golf course. So I also have some other stuff to do, but we're gonna cap it at an hour. So get your questions in, and I'll be sure to answer them as much as I can and as quickly as I can. You definitely want to get more behind the ball, because if your ball is rotating this way on a longer pattern, so there's a lot of oil, the ball's already getting down the lane really far, right? It's going to be uncontrollable, because as soon as it sees friction, it's going to go in the direction that it is spinning, right? So if you're already trying to play straighter angles and the ball's rotating this way, it's going to be really uncontrollable and really inconsistent. But whereas if it's rolling this way towards the pins, it's going to be controlling the pocket a lot better. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to strike less. You can definitely strike plenty with minimal rotation. I mean, EJ is I wouldn't say incredibly forward, but he doesn't have very much natural rotation. And dude just, you know, probably one player of the year. It's obviously a vote. So I'm not going to say who I'm voting for, but it's definitely better in most cases to be more forward on the longer patterns. Um, I do have a piece of tape on my axis, so I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but as the ball is entering the pins, the ball is supposed to be rolling at the pins. So the only time I really want to rotate it a whole lot is when there's a lot of friction and I'm creating really big angles. So like if I'm going through 20 and trying to get it to 5 right now, I'm not going to want to be like really up the back. I want to try to match my rotation with the angle that I'm trying to create. I would also say for faster speed bowlers on longer patterns, I would use more surface because you want that ball to start reading the lane before the end of the pattern. That is the goal, even on like house shots, right? That's why there's barely any oil out there on the gutter, because if the pattern is 40 feet long, but on the gutter the oil only goes to like 25 feet, that's 15 feet of friction that you're throwing it at, right? So that's why it's so easy for everyone to strike on house patterns, is because their ball naturally is reading before the end of the pattern. And when people get on sport patterns, they look at 40 feet. So I want to hit 40. I want to hit board 8 at 40 feet. And that's basically impossible, right? That's a lot of the reason why people struggle on sport patterns, is because they're trying to get their ball too far down the lane in most instances, and they're not using an early enough, they're not getting their ball to read early enough. So I would experiment with surface and stronger layouts and things like that if you're struggling a lot on sport patterns. And then, like right now, I'm bowling on a house pattern. And the reason I'm doing it is because I want to see good ball motion. It's so easy to get good ball motion um, on a house pattern. It's actually more difficult to get bad ball motion on a house pattern, because the pattern is designed to help you strike. Honestly, I don't really polish them that much because I get the ball through the front part of the lane really easily. I have in the past, but only when there's so much friction on the lane that if I go to like a weaker ball, like a high road, for example, that it reads the friction in the front part of the lane so fast that it doesn't stay on line, and it makes me throw it over the friction, and then it never hooks, right? Like if this is the front part of the lane, right, and all the friction is right here, and you're throwing a quick response ball, meaning like a high road is a quick response to friction, meaning when it sees friction, it wants to change directions off of it. So if all the friction is in the front part of the lane and then down lane is all oil, right, I have to use this friction to get my ball to hook. So if I use a quick response ball, it's going to see that friction and immediately go offline. So then it's going to, not get to the right side of the head pin, or it's going to hook immediately and bail. And that's the instances I'll use like the clone, because it's a polished solid ball. But it's very, very rare that I end up doing it. And even then, I'll polish it and then hit it with a little bit of surface, just so that way I have some teeth. Or I'll use like 500 and then polish, just so that way there's the actual like valleys and ridges on the cover stock, and then I just kind of lightly fill them in with polish. back to the exponent. Oh, that was cool. That was the 4-pin that got smacked by the head pin, by the way. I guess I'll just go ahead and go through like kind of where I feel these balls are going to fit. The exponent's a bit cleaner than say like a phase 2. I also don't think it flares quite as much. I think the flare rings the footprint's a little bit smaller and the flares are a bit tighter. So I think it would be like if a phase 2 hooks too much for you, I think the exponent would be pretty good in that same kind of usage. I also think it's a little bit quicker. So like if I had to like rank them, it would be Summit, then phase 2 as far as like front to back, where they pick up. So Summit, phase 2 exponent, and that's kind of the like base of the like solid or hybrid cover stock bowling ball. I mean, I don't really know what's on this exponent. I just throw them honestly, and figure it out for myself. But how I see them is exponent is the cleanest of those three. So if you're in a really high friction surface in phase 2s and summits, just read the lane too early. I think exponent would be pretty good. Clone, I'm really like unsure about, only because I don't know that I bowl on enough friction, especially on tour, to leave it shiny, right? The goal of this ball is to be that cleaner, still kind of like medium response, not really slow, not really quick, ball that's kind of like that transition piece. I think that you could throw it for all 3 games at like league or whatever. Like I don't think that there's any limitation on how far left you could move with it. I do think that there's a limitation on how far right you could go with it, depending on the pattern. Like if you're bowling on 35 feet, it's not going to be a ball that you start with, unless your rev rate is low enough to keep it online. Exponent, I think, is going to be the most versatile of the 3. I think you can throw that ball on just about anything, and it handles surface extremely well because it doesn't flare very much. I'm very, very impressed with it. It's probably going to go with me to Sweden, and I think that exponent might as well, just because I know Sweden hooks a bunch. I mean, honestly, all 3 of them might go, but I really don't know. I'm also drilling one of those new Martin Larson, the Lucky Larson bowling balls, which is a phase 2 core, I think. I'm not entirely sure, but the numbers look very phase 2 core-esque. Do I use switch grips? I do not use them. I use like, yes, my thumbs switch out, but I use the Vice IT system. But as far as like turbo switch grips, I think those are fine as well. I think it's personal preference. I personally like the Vice ones because the grips are a little softer, if that makes sense. Like the slugs are a little softer, they feel softer, and they're not as, I just feel like I clear them better personally, right? But that's, it's a kind of trial and error thing. Like if you're thinking about switching or anything like that, I wouldn't put a switch grip into a ball, only because you could do it with a slug and have the same feel, because that's essentially what they do. Is just put a urethane slug in a sleeve, and then they drill you the thumb. But it's a lot cheaper to do it just with a slug, and then you could drill out the slug if you wanted to change. Because both of the holes required for the parts is deeper than what a pro shop would drill for a regular slug. There was something else I was going to say. I forgot what it was though. But I also like the finger grips more, because the finger grips on the Vice side are softer as well. Any advice for getting a dart code to hook again? Don't bake it. Don't put it in like your oven or anything like that, because that's just going to contaminate your food and everything like that. If you're going to do like a rejuvenation or something like that, um, you could do warm like a warm bucket of hot, or like a warm bucket of water, and then do like dish soap. I've heard that that's worked. Um, the other side of it would be, if you've never hit it with surface, right? If you've never, like I see you've cleaned it and things like that, but if you never like re-hit it with surface, like those valleys and those peaks and valleys on the ball surface at the microscopic level, as you throw it, they just smooth out, smooth out, smooth out until they're like, a cue ball, right? So maybe you need to go back and hit it again and almost resurface it, as far as like going like 180, 360, 500, 1000, and then polishing back over it if you want the polish. The other, and if it still doesn't hook, then hit it with 500 and then polish it. And then if it still doesn't hook, hit it with like 1000. And it might be a ball that is no longer a like clean quick ball, but now you have to hit it with surface and use it a little bit differently. Because obviously over time the balls absorb oil and they hook a little less and they hook a little less, hook a little less. But I do think that there's ultimately a shelf life on a ball. Um, but it's like hundreds of games. It's like 400 or 500. And over time, as you get up in those values of games in the higher quantity, the ball's just going to hook less and less and less. It doesn't mean you can't keep throwing it. You just have to use it differently. Still 9 pin too. I messed them up real good. There we go. Since I know there's some of you guys wondering out there, like, oh, what's it like bowling on string pins? Do you like it? Do you hate it? All that other stuff. Um, I'm indifferent. It's still bowling. Honestly, I feel like it's more like true bowling. Like, imagine that there's no more sidewalls, right? Because the pins don't really come off the sidewalls all that much. So just imagine that they're not there. So I feel like that's a lot of the reason why the messengers don't hit, everything like that. So the quote perfect strike is a lot of the times really the only way that you can strike. And I think that you could run a tournament on like you could run a tournament here and it would be totally fine. Like I don't think that there's any issues with them at all. I'm still gonna practice here. I'm still gonna come here and bowl. League will be fine. All that other good stuff. Like I don't think it's a negative thing, if that makes sense. I think there's more issues with free fall as far as like mechanics and everything like that. Whereas a place like this, where a lot of the folks that work here are younger and they don't have the mechanical expertise of the older generation, so they don't really want to work on a machine, right? They don't have there's only, I don't know if you can see him or not, but the gentleman that's down there on his hands and knees cleaning is the only one that really knows how to take apart the old machines and work on them and everything like that. So you got these older guys typically working on these machines, and it kind of runs them ragged, right? Now they have an option to where the machines kind of fix themselves, and really all you have to do is work on a pulley system. Um, as far as like, you know, everybody wants the messengers, everybody wants the trip fours, everybody wants the offhits. They're still offhits, right? It's just different. I'm figuring out what they are now. Like I I haven't had any issues with like a wrap 10 and then like the string taking it over. I feel like if I'm going to wrap a 10, it's still going to wrap 10. It's not going to, the string isn't going to knock it over. I don't hit the pins that hard. Maybe somebody like a Simonson or a Belmo or an EJ does, or a Vi. But I personally do not. And I also think that it brings in consistency, right? The Belmos of the world that create so much power, they could hit the pins anywhere they want, and they're going to knock them all over, right? Just because the pins fly around so much. So if you eliminate the amount of pin flying, then it allows the people that don't generate as much power to become more competitive. What up, Oscar? What factor determines the hook? Is it rev rate, getting around the ball rotation, or is it all the above? It's a little bit of all of the above. I think the biggest factor is rev rate, and then it goes to surface, and then it goes to rotation. Now, obviously, rotation affects how much it hooks left to right. So, like, I'm just going to kind of dump this one up the lane, but I'm going to rotate it a lot. Right? So that one probably had like 70 degrees of rotation, and I got 3 off the left. So you can see, like, as it saw the friction, it's going to make it go to the left, but it's really about what's controllable, right? I think that less rotation, like less overall rotation, is typically better just because it's more controllable. Now, there's obviously times where you need to rotate it more, and that's kind of like a gut, like, man, I just feel like it's a little lazy down lane, and I need to help it, right? Like when your thing gets in that oil starts dragging out of the lane, that's when I typically want to use a touch more rotation, just because my angles that I'm trying to play aren't really matching up for the more forward roll. Right now, if I'm playing straight and I'm trying to, or I'm just playing like straighter angles and I'm trying to keep it in front of me, you want it to roll forward, right? You want it to stay on line. Whereas if I'm over the left gutter, throwing it all the way over here to the right, and I'm trying to create these big, steep open angles, then yes, I am going to want to rotate it more, only because I'm trying to get it to match up to those angles that I'm trying to play. And then as I'm trying to get the ball to hook more from, like, let's say I'm trying to play 15 to 8, and my ball just keeps two pinning, keeps two pinning. There's a couple things I can do. One of them is I can throw it slower, give it more time to actually hook. Or if I can't throw it slower, then I can only increase the rev rate, right? Because I'm trying to keep it in that same spot. And I kind of feel like I should just give you an example, right? So, like, if I'm trying to play 20 to 8 right now, actually, we'll do it just like I said, right? We'll go like 15 to 8, and I'm going to try to 2-pin. So I'm going to take out a bunch of my hand and just try to 2-pin. All right, well, it struck. But anyway, it was a light hit. And now if I'm like, okay, I want to just try to get my ball to hook a little bit more, right? My rev rate there was probably about 350-ish. So I could probably get it up to like 400 or 425, and it's going to hook a little bit more. And it might actually hook too much just because there's that much friction on the lane. So we're going to try to increase the rev rate just a little bit. Oh, that was bad. Don't mind that one. That one was up the lane and not very good. But I think ultimately it's all rev rate, ball speed, surface. Because somebody with a 200 200 rev rate can hook it as much as somebody with 400. They just have to use a lot more surface and a lot less ball speed. Let's try that again. 15 to 8, about 425 on the rev rate. All right, so hit it a little harder, hooks a little bit more, but it also reads the lane earlier. Sherman Kirk, thank you so much for the $5. I see you didn't really ask a question there, so if you want to ask a question, Tacky will throw it up on there. Thank you so much for the donation. You guys definitely do not have to do that, but we always appreciate it. So ultimately, Oscar, yes, I do think that rev rate is number one, then it's surface / ball speed. Maybe some super affordable free fall pin setters become mainstream. Brunswick, GST, and XT pin setters are apparently pretty good, but if something could be competitive with strings, that would be ideal. I don't disagree, but you also have to think, what is the best case scenario for the proprietor, right? These alleviate a lot of stress on the mechanic. It alleviates a lot of stress on the owner, where ultimately, if you have to replace something, it's maybe a couple parts and you don't have to take off a bunch of other things to get to that one part, right? They're all right there. If a string breaks, you can reconnect it to the pin, rerun it through the pulley system, and it's ready to go. I do think that in probably 20 or 30 years that this will be the normal, and we'll see the same thing that we saw with plastic to urethane to reactive bowling balls. There are going to be some people that are going to be like, oh my god, this is amazing, and then there's going to be some people that are like, this is going to ruin bowling, right? Whereas if bowling would have stuck with plastic and or even rubber, really, from 19 whenever 20 to what was it, 40, 50, 60, something like that, those old rubber balls. Could you imagine trying to bowl with a rubber ball today? We'd have a lot less ball drillers because those things smell like god awful when you drill them. But I do think it'll become more of the norm as parts for the machines become more difficult to find, and ultimately the folks that can work on those machines are no longer able to do so. That's my thought on it. I think string pins are here to stay, and you're going to see them in a lot more family-owned places because the owners are getting too old to work on them, and the kids that they hire can't do the machine work. Switch over to this Tour Dynamics. I have seen a lot of that though, where like it's a high hit, and like on like free fall that probably would have struck. It either would have struck or it would have big four, right? It was one or the other. But like how the head pin comes off the wall and like hits like really in front of the 4-pin. I did see that a few times yesterday when I practiced as well. So I do think like trip 4s are a bit harder, and you know, obviously messengers are tough. I don't even know that I could send a messenger and have it connect. I think it would be in front of it the entire time. A couple. Kind of like that. All right, let's get back to the bowling balls. I think we've talked about the string pins enough. I didn't really want to, but I knew there was somebody watching that would like my opinion, so that's it. And I don't think they're good or bad, but I do think it'll be more of a common occurrence in the future. Let's see what this clone. Move a couple. I've been going high every single time. Oh, bad one. Wish I had access to your guys' questions. This would probably go a lot smoother. And that still would have been a flat 10, just so you know. Mervin, do I have any holes in my bag? I got a Reality, Exotic Gym, Phase 2, Summit, Eternity, and Zenu. The Summit and the Phase 2 are really close together. I think it's kind of like how I played with the Idol in the Phase 2. I feel like those two are kind of interchangeable, where one rolls better than the other in some instances. Where like if I'm bowling on a pattern where it's like really slick, right? The ball doesn't hook very early at all. I'm gonna probably go with a Summit because it has a little bit bigger core, a little bit stronger cover. It's gonna roll a little bit faster. And then if I'm bowling on something like this where there's a little bit more friction and a little bit more free hook, I'm gonna pick a Phase 2. So I wouldn't take both of them. If you're limited to 6, I wouldn't take both of them. I would take one or the other, whichever one is your favorite. And then I would put in like a medium ball, like a Zen Gold label or a regular Zen, something that still has like a decent sized core in it, but has a little bit weaker cover stock, just so that way you're not only limited to the Eternity as your cleanest ball. I do think that you need something a little bit weaker than an Eternity. I am so consistent. Annihilate one and then flies off my hand on the next one. My current arsenal is Gem, Exotic, Gem, Dark Code, Zen Soul, and recently added IP Tour Ruby. I think that's a pretty solid lineup. I think kind of similar to what we were just talking about. I think that you could use a little bit weaker ball, not necessarily like high road weak, because I see you put your rev rate around 330 in there, but something that's in that same zone as IQ2 or Ruby, but with a little bit more flair. So something like a, trying to remember what's available. Zen Gold Label would be a pretty solid option. Honestly, this clone would be pretty good too, just because it's still that stronger cover stock, but it doesn't have a whole lot of surface on it. So it's going to give you a different look than all the other ones are going to give you. Baller Boy, I'm part of that younger generation. I'm very mechanically inclined. The only reason that I am not working on machines is because I work bigger machines, cars, trucks. Otherwise, I would. Yeah, exactly. And there's honestly like a lot more money to be made in that industry than there is as a mechanic um, in the bowling industry, mainly because it's an entertainment type of business, and there's not always enough money to go around to pay a mechanic what he's worth for the machines, right? To keep the business up and running. And we see that a lot in a lot of businesses where, you know, the mechanic is worth 65, 75,000, but they can only afford to pay him 35 or 40. So I don't disagree, but it's still tough whenever, just like you said, there's other options, right? You have plenty of skill to do it, but you're probably making a few $1,000 more a year, maybe 10 or 20, doing what you're doing, working on cars and trucks, than you could working in a bowling center. And that's where these proprietors have to make these decisions about what's best for their center and what's best for their bottom line. Two of those. So like if one of your centers back home gets string pins, I just encourage you to not immediately be like, I'm never bowling there again, this place sucks, blah blah blah. You have to look at it from their perspective. It's what's best for them, right? And ultimately you're a customer, they're providing a service for you, and they're trying to make providing that service easier for them and more cost effective for them. And if they're giving you something new and different and putting a bunch of money, like I'll kind of show you what they're doing here. They are making, like, this place looked good before, and now it is looking phenomenal. I'll give you guys a little sneak peek, right? So that wall there is cut off at lane 16, but I don't know if you can see over there. Oh, all right. I'm getting the nod to go walk down there. So we're going to go on a little excursion. So they've invested a bunch of money into the game room back over here, and automatic doors now, no more double door opening. But here at Twisted Pen, they have completely remodeled the bar, right? They are investing so much money into this place and trying to make it new and exciting for you, for everybody. They have is it 28 beers?
4 wine, 24 beers on tap.
4 wine and 24 different beers on tap, self-serve, all that cool stuff, right? And then obviously the VIP lanes, which I assume is going to be for business events and parties and things like that. But I mean, like, how good does this place look, right? The different, like, little shooters and things like that, little tasters. I mean, they are investing a ton of money into a place like this. And if you're at, if your center at home is, if the one negative for you is they're putting in string pins, but they're investing millions of dollars into their business to make it look as good as this place does, right? They're making it look immaculate. I think that you could get by with bowling on string pins, right? It's just bowling. It's still bowling. The only difference is most of us, right? I'm 31. I have been bowling on free fall competitively for 22 years, right? My first tournament was at age 9, and I have never bowled a tournament on string pin. So when we get the off hits like the trip 4 and the messenger on free fall, we have been trained to see those and expect those. And there are off hits that you can get on string pins. We just don't know what they are yet because we haven't bowled on them, right? Now, maybe the Liz Johnson 5 into the 4 into the 7 is the new messenger, right? Maybe that's the new trip 4, but we don't know because we haven't bowled on them. Maybe the new high hit is a, I don't know, a stuff 4-9 where they kind of close in on each other because a pin came off the wall on the left side, the head pin came off the wall, hit the 4, and then something came off the right wall and hit the 9. You know, maybe it's not the 4 into the 9, maybe it's something different. We don't know. But everybody that's here, I don't know how many of them that are here. I would just encourage you to be open-minded about it instead of just like, oh, string pin is so stupid, blah blah blah, right? That's my biggest thing. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's a good idea. If I opened up a bowling center, I would put them in because, like I said, I wouldn't have to pay a mechanic, you know, 40, 50, $60,000 a year to maintain my lanes. Mark, I used the clone on fresh at demo, never could see it start its procession till it was through the mids. Yeah, I think also full disclosure for those of you that have not done Bowl U, procession is whenever you see, we'll just take the tape, right? That's my axis. So as the ball's traveling down the lane, you see my axis and then it rotates away, right? So that's what procession is. It's that it's essentially the ball reading the lane, right? It's seeing friction, it's changing its axis rotation as it's traveling down the lane. That's what procession is. I also encourage you to go to a Bowl U camp. The guys there, Rick Benoit, Brad Angelo, there's a guy that you've probably never heard of, and Alan Levette. They are very, very intelligent. It's most like what they excel at is ball motion. They also do some physical game things, but it's not as serious as lane play and getting you to see the actual dimensions of the lane properly. Yeah, I think as far as that goes, Mark, I would just hit it with a little bit of surface. I do think that out of the factory, there's a little too much polish on it. And also with the solid cover stock, right? With the slower ball motion, it's already slow, and then you're making it even slower by adding the polish, right? It's getting started later because of the polish. So hit it with a little surface. It'll start up a little sooner, obviously. But that's ultimately the goal of this ball, right? Is to keep that axis rotation even longer. But when it starts to lose it, it's still that smooth shape, right? That's the goal of this ball, and I think that's going to be a big factor into how people use it. I think it's going to be really good on higher friction surfaces if you want it polished. Now, obviously, I haven't hit it with any surface because I didn't want to for you guys. But I think that I'm probably going to drill one with like a pin down and hit it with a bunch of surface and see how it rolls. And then I'm going to drill a fresh pin up one and hit it with a bunch of surface and see how that rolls. And just see what the real difference is between a shiny clone and a dull one. Because, you know, I don't want you guys going out there and spending, you know, $700-800. Obviously the bullet ball companies would, but I think that if you have information leading up to it, it's probably more ideal for you guys, right? That way you're saving money, getting stuff that you actually need. This one's also quicker than I expected. I think that with surface, it's going to be a little bit a little bit smoother. A lot of times with these balls that come out of the factory shiny, they stay like super quick, but the surface just makes them quick earlier. And I don't think that'll be the case for this one. I think it'll actually slow it down, slow down the motion with surface. Cool. All right, guys, let's do one more question. We're right at an hour. I have a bunch of stuff to ship out and everything like that. Let's make this the last question. Been bowling for a year and average 215. I'm going to college for it, and we have team trials next Tuesday. What do you think would be a good idea, a good mindset to go with going into it? I'm two-handed. Honestly, just control the pocket. I know at Wichita, now I don't know what school you're going to or anything like that, but at Wichita, the patterns aren't really patterns. Like, they're obviously patterns, but it's not anything that you would ever really bowl on. Like, I think there's one that's only like 20 feet long, right? It's like super, super short. And all they're trying to do is figure out how creative you are, how fast you make moves, how well do you control the pocket, what's your spare percentage. That's really the stuff that they're focusing on. So for you, I would just try to figure out how best you can. Sorry, 1 second. No clue if you guys can hear me or not. All right, and we're back with water. But find the best way that you can control the pocket, make all your spares. Striking in that situation, unless everyone is striking, it's not really that big of a deal, honestly. Like, the coach is trying to see how well do you handle yourself. Are you a good team player? Are you helping out the people that are there? And because, like, if I'm going through trials, right? Let's say they keep 12, right? If you're 13th and the entire time you were talking to people, you were communicating about what you were doing and helping other people bowl well and encouraging them, and you finished 13th, and then the guy that finished 12th was very secluded and didn't help anybody, was just there for himself. I'm going to see that, and I'm going to want the guy that's willing to help other people rather than the guy that is just there for himself and trying to only bowl for himself, right? Because in college, it's all team, right? There's no singles competition. It's all team, and it's all people working together. So if you can do that through the tryout process and also bowl well enough to make it, I think that it's a no-brainer to pick you, right? And even if you have to fake it, right? Even if you're like, man, I really don't like this guy. This guy's been a jerk to me in the past or whatever. Be nice to him, right? It's going to go a lot longer way than you kind of excluding that potential relationship. Because there's a lot of people that I, thought I wouldn't have liked, and now we're incredibly good friends and we talk all the time, right? You never know what the relationship could be if you just exclude it. So it's also going to go a long way in the coach's eyes. So I know, long rant. Sorry, I wanted to be thorough, but figure out what you can do to control the pocket. Talk to everybody while you're there. Talk about what you're seeing. Talk about what you're doing, and good luck. I think you're going to do well. Pretty confident in that. But thank you so much, everybody, for coming out, joining us for this hour. I leave tomorrow for Sweden. Packy,
yeah, baby.
Hello.
Yeah, baby.
What up? How are you playing?
We're doing good. We're doing good out here. I'm not going to Sweden. No, I'm not. That's KRIS's job.
Yeah, that's me. What is well? Have you? What's the score looking like?
We're playing a scramble. Me and Drews.
What
versus Ryan and Carter.
Oh, nice.
They're smacking us.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Yeah, they're both good. We're not. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say the other two look like they've probably played golf before, whereas Yeah, they look younger, and you two look like you should be playing basketball, but I still think Ryan would cook you.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
He would.
So cool. Well, Pac, thanks for hosting.
Yeah, appreciate you demoing and talking to all the peeps and answering their questions.
Yeah, for sure. We'll do it again. Probably right after Sweden, or whenever
right.
we get these new balls in again. So cool. Thank you everybody for the questions. We'll talk to you guys
All right.
later. And
Appreciate it, guys.
peace.
Peace.